That's a very quick intro, ladies and gentlemen, and it's the correct intro. So what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Giants Collective. Happy weekend. Of course, Giants Collective is always powered by good friends at BetUS. It's right up there. Go over there, check out their website. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on TikTok and Instagram. Make sure you follow us over there. If you want to become a channel member, you just hit that join button. You get all those emojis. You get monthly member messages. You're going to get your name in the outro. Click that. Become a member of Giants Collective. And thank you for being here. We are closing in on 5,000 subscribers, which is pretty amazing considering the time of year it is, where it's pretty dead right now, if we're being completely honest. But there's definitely some news. There was definitely some excitement on OTAs yesterday. I don't think there's any question about it. There was a skirmish. Brian Burns got into a skirmish, and it was broken up. And then Kayvon Thibodeau got into a skirmish, Aluminor, and then the bench is cleared, and we had a real brouhaha. Anthony's that good or bad for the team? What do you think? I mean, there's always fights, but you don't usually see them in OTAs when there's not a lot of contact. What was your thought about the melee?
I'm cool with it. I think it's exciting to see that there's a rising level of intensity this early in the practice period for the Giants. Like you said, usually that stuff doesn't happen until we get to training camp, and obviously the pads come on and they start hitting each other. It's happening now, and I think that's actually a good sign. I think, especially to see who was involved, with it being James Hudson, a newcomer, with it being Brian Burns, a premier pass rusher, with it being Kayvon Thibodeau, who has a lot to answer for this upcoming season, which Emmanuel Aluminor is in a contract year. These are all players you want playing with a level of intensity. And I think that the way you practice is the way that you play. And if they're practicing intensely enough to be getting into fist fights and now at OTAs, then I imagine they're going to keep that intensity going into training camp and hopefully have that level of intensity and desire to punch people in the mouth when the regular season rolls around. So I think it's a good thing. I'm excited about it. I don't think that there's really any major takeaways to have from it. You know, it was just a little skirmish at the end of practice. But again, I think it's positive to see the team already ramping up the intensity.
Chris, what is your thought about the old WrestleMania 49?
Yeah, as long as nobody gets hurt, I'm completely fine with it. Bring it on, right? I mean, it's a physical game. I'm not gonna, like Anthony said, I'm not gonna get like overly excited about it. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying this is what we need. You know, this is the type of team we need. They're fighting already in OTAs. I mean, we said the same thing when Joe Judge got here, right? When they were doing similar things during his training camps. I don't think it was necessarily in OTAs, but I remember there were several skirmishes when he first took over. So we'll wait till we see the results on the field. But regardless, if you're a football fan and you're starving for some kind of football news, it's exciting, I guess, to see that your team's taking things seriously in OTAs and is getting a little physical. I'm always for a little extra physicality as long as there's no injuries.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to get overly excited about it. I'm not going to sit there and go, it's a great thing. It's not a bad thing, though. I don't think it by any stretch of the imagination. Like Anthony mentioned, competition's fierce. And I think it's good that they're already competing. Brian Burns mentioned it. It's 90 degrees. It's humid. You're going to be miserable. I mean, anybody that deals with that, Anthony, you live in Florida, you probably deal with that a lot. Chris, you and I deal with it sporadically over the course.
Starting to deal with it now.
Yeah, it's been humid here. It was 90 degrees yesterday. I like that kind of weather, though. I'm going to be honest. But I'm not practicing in it either. I work in an air-conditioned office, so it's easy for me to deal with that heat as opposed to running around out there. You're probably cranky. You're tired. You get irritated easily, and fisticuffs fly. But I do like that Brian Burns kind of took accountability for it. A lot of guys just walk away. They want to answer the media, and that's pretty much just what he said. He goes, we fight over food. It's just a thing. It's a brotherhood. It's just what happens. Guys do this all the time. I'm sure most of the guys in here at one point or another got in a fist fight with their best friend. And what do? You walk away, you say, remember, and then you're best friends again. You don't even think about it. It's kind of a thing in football. It is an intense sport, no question about it. It's a physical sport. And listen, man, I'm not going to, like I said, like Chris said, I'm not going to get like, oh, yes. But at the same time, I'm like, it's not a bad thing at all. I like that the intensity is there. And like Anthony said, hopefully this year we're punching other people, which would be nice because we have been the punching bag of the NFL for many, many years. And call me crazy, and I've been called worse. I just got a good feeling about this year, man. I don't know what it is. I just do. I don't know what it is. I'll probably regret that in the fall. But right now, I feel pretty good about it. Jaxson Dart, he got a lot of reps with the first team today. Yesterday, he took reps with the second team. I heard that he had a bad day. So I don't really know. I mean, I didn't get a really chance to look yesterday. I worked all freaking day, so I didn't really get a chance to look at a lot of stuff yesterday. Chris, I know we've probably talked about this before, but I mean, what do you take away from a guy having a good day or a bad day at OTAs? Is there anything to take away from it?
No, not really. In my opinion, because as we found out a couple of years ago, they were telling Wink to play. So who knows what Dable's doing? Maybe he's giving the defense the advantage. And yeah, when a quarterback throws an interception, you get bummed about the quarterback. But is it a good thing for the secondary? I don't know how to judge these things, right? In terms of interceptions, like I don't know if I should be happy that the defense is coming up with a play or the quarterback is making a bad throw. At the end of the day, you just want Jaxson Dart in there, learning the playbook, getting acclimated to the NFL, getting some rapport with these receivers on this football team. And that's all well and good. So I'm not going to get too high or too low based off of extremely positive or extremely negative reports. I just want these guys to stay healthy, build some camaraderie, and continue to grow as a football team. But yeah, whether it's a great report or a bad report regarding Jaxson Dart, I'm not gonna sway one way or the other. I'm gonna wait till I see it when it counts on the football field.
Anthony, what do you take away from him getting reps with the first team and the second team? Is there anything to take away from that, or is it just OTAs and that's what they're doing?
I think there's something to take away. He hasn't gotten a ton of first team reps. I know Russell Wilson only had first team reps. He hasn't taken a single snap with the second or the third team. So it's pretty clear and obvious that they view him as the firm starting quarterback and that there is a competition behind him. Now that they're having Jaxson Dart compete with the second team and play more reps with the second team than Jameis Winston did yesterday, I think it does signal that throughout training camp, that's a battle to keep an eye on. And I think that could have a pretty interesting domino effect. Let's imagine we get through training camp and the Giants release their first depth chart of the season, and Jaxson Dart is QB2 and Jameis Winston is QB3. Well, we know that they still like Tommy DeVito as a backup quarterback. Could that make Jameis Winston expendable? Could that prompt the team to call the Giants and say, hey, we noticed Jameis Winston is third on your depth chart. We could have him as first on our depth chart if they're the New Orleans Saints or some other team that really needs a quarterback. So I do think that's something interesting to take away, that Dart is already moving up and getting more reps with the second team. And if that continues and progresses this way, it could make Jameis Winston somewhat expendable by the time we do get to the end of the preseason. So that's one takeaway that I had from it. But anything in addition to that, listen, with the amount of picks that are thrown, I think it's a really good point, like Bad Dog just said, or maybe it was Chris, about the playbook being known by the defense years ago. We know that Brian Dable has very unorthodox methods for developing the quarterbacks, and he's going to trick them, and he's going to really test them. The only thing that I'll say to the amount of interceptions is the defense sounds great, and if this continues throughout training camp, then I will have a level of concern. Right now, I don't think it's a big deal because this offense is brand new, completely new quarterback room. Everybody's gelling together for the first time. Malik Neighbors isn't even out there, which obviously makes a difference for the quarterbacks. Yeah. So I expect this offense to struggle as they put it all together. It's putting a puzzle together without having any instructions. And so I think that's what's happening right now. It's growing pains. And if it continues into training camp, then I might be concerned. But I think what's more important to take away is who's getting these interceptions and how often they are. Like Dane Belton with 3 interceptions in 6 practices, 2 of them being pick sixes. I think you can clearly take that away as a positive. There's not really any way to be like, oh, well, it's only OTAs. No, that's really impressive. And that's something to be excited about. And he all the time does this during the practices and oftentimes on the field as well. He's been involved in 9 turnovers through 3 seasons in his career. So I think that he might be a player that's slowly starting to develop and become something. So I do think there is a lot to take away from OTAs. I know I kind of said a lot there about the quarterback battle and, what we could see from that. So I'm curious to hear thoughts on that, but also needed to give the shout out to Dane Belton because he's just played like a phenom in OTAs.
We actually, last show, we did discuss how well Dane Belton has done in OTA. So that was definitely a guy that we discussed. Let me ask you this, Anthony, just real quick to kind of pick it. Again, you really got to worry about next year. I understand that. But to me, the Jameis Winston signing was kind of a guy that would be a backup again next year as Russell Wilson kind of went away playing for a contract. Do you think it's possible? I mean, if they got rid of Jameis Winston, would you just sign another backup quarterback the next season, or do you stick with Tommy DeVito, or how would you work that? I mean, again, you got to worry about next year, but just I thought that's why they brought Jameis Winston in here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but is there anything to that, you think?
I think That's right. I think that's what the Giants want with Jameis Winston. But as we know, plans always change. Nothing ever goes according to plans, especially for the New York Giants. So if they're planning on Jameis Winston being the backup this year and next year, that's the plan now. That plan could change, especially if we get to the end of the preseason, Jaxson Dart is significantly outperforming him, and a team comes calling and offers a really good draft pick. Like that would be the wrench in the plans, because right now, what's Jameis Winston's market? Well, it might not be a whole lot, but if he is clearly expendable for the Giants and there is a really quarterback needy team out there that views him as a 2-year potential player for them, I think his contract being 2 years is a really big boost in his trade value. If it was a 1-year deal, I mean, does he even have any trade value? Would he just be a 5th or 6th round pick? But I do think he's one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. That has to have some sort of value. And the fact that he's under a 2-year contract, $4 million per season, I imagine he does have some level of interest from teams around the league if he does end up on the trade block, and that there would be more than one team vying for him, and the Giants would actually be able to get a pretty decent draft pick, maybe an early day 3, even potentially a late day 2 for Jameis Winston, and depending on how quarterback needy these teams get. So I think that there's just a lot of value to be had from that, and hopefully he's the backup for 2 years, because I think Jameis is a good player and a great locker room guy. But again, plans can change, and if the Giants get a good offer later on this summer, then they need to be all ears for it.
Chris, is there anybody in OTAs that have really wowed you from what you know? I mean, I don't know how much. Like I get it sporadically. I can't always check out.
Really, all I'm doing is watching highlight clips, and
that's kind of what I do too.
What people are saying on Twitter. So I don't have a firsthand experience. Everybody's entitled to do their own thing. I know a lot of people get really excited during OTAs because you want hope for the season, and I get that. And maybe I've just been beaten down way too much as a Giants fan over the last 6 or 7 years, where I don't put any stock into it. I don't get bent out of shape if I read bad reports, and I don't get overly excited if I hear really good reports. I just wait as the season gets closer, and that's where I really start to judge what this team's going to look like. That's just the way I felt the last 3 or 4 years since I've been talking about the Giants. I just want them to stay healthy. That's the most important thing for me in training camp, specifically OTAs. I take a little bit more stock, like Anthony said, as training camp gets underway. But for me, OTAs, I could take it or leave it. I'm happy that football's starting to get back, but I don't read too much into it.
Yeah, the funny thing is, if you guys look at the banner, I made a joke about this, and they made the banner. When our production team made the banner for the channel, you see Chris and I on that's on your left when you're looking. And Chris and I look like, I said, Chris and I look like 2 guys that have covered the Giants for 7 years on YouTube. And I said, Anthony and Adriano, you can tell they're still happy. They still have hope. I'm like, they're both smiling. Chris and I are like, another year of this shit. No, but hopefully.
I think like the Evan Neal thing to me is interesting, that he's getting first team reps at the guard spot, that they've been impressed with him. That to me is interesting. Things like that, because he's a guy that I could potentially, hopefully see becoming the starting guard for the Giants this year. And I'd like to see if he can grow into that role. So a storyline like that, I find interesting that he's getting first team reps. I still don't think he'll be the opening day starter, but I think there's a good chance he could take over relatively early at the guard spot if he continues to play well in training camp. I would say for me, that's the most interesting storyline. Obviously, we're all excited about Jaxson Dart and Abdul Carter, but that's probably the thing that I find most interesting thus far, that he's getting first team reps with the guards, and that thus far, from what I've read, the coaching staff's been impressed with him.
Anthony, I know you do a lot of research. I know you do a lot of studying with the OTAs. Is there one player in particular, a couple players that have really stood out to you, like you're thinking, wow, they're better than I thought they'd be, or somebody that gets you hopeful that they might take a step forward this season?
Dane Belton, I mean, I'm really I can't get over how well he's played, and I'm extra excited about it because when I was going through all of the players on Fireside Giants to keep an eye on at OTAs, Dane Belton was one of the guys that I said, so I'm happy that I called that shot. The only thing that I'll say, though, Chris, about Evan Neal, the caveat here with him taking those first team reps, just because I think it's relevant, John Runyon, I don't think is practicing. So who else would be getting those first team reps? I don't know. It would be him or Josh Azidu, I suppose. And Azidu has been getting some left tackle reps.
They've talked about Bowen, guard tackle versatility.
But I do think it's, good to hear that they feel positive about Evan Neal's development so far. I do think that there is an argument to be made that he's been playing out of position the entire time he's been in the NFL, right? Like he was more comfortable on the left side of the line at Alabama. He flipped back to the right side of the line, which he only had limited experience with. He's primarily been on the left side of the line throughout his football career, though, dating back to college. So I'm hopeful that he can turn things around there. But in terms of anybody else who stood out, Well, here's one thing that I saw. I saw that Cordell Flott was taking reps with the first team as the CB2 behind Paulson Adebo. And I don't know what that says for Deonte Banks. I don't know if he just needed a rest, if he had a tweak, an injury or whatever. But I do think it's interesting that Cordell Flott is at least getting some first team reps. I mean, it's important because obviously Banks went down a couple times last year or was benched a couple times last year, and Cordell Flott went in. And honestly, I thought that he played well at times. Like, he wasn't spectacular or anything, but he was in his third season, and I think he was starting to show progress. And it's been a trend for the entirety of that 2022 class so far through OTAs. All of them seem to be turning some sort of a corner. Even Josh Azidu has gotten some praise for the work that he's done at both left tackle and left guard. Cordell Flott is earning some first team reps, which is a positive, and he played well down the stretch last year. Obviously, Dane Belton, we just mentioned. Micah McFadden had an interception early in OTAs, and he's looked good apparently. Wan'Dale Robinson has looked good apparently, and he seems to be gelling well with Russell Wilson. So I am starting to get kind of excited about the potential of this 2022 class. Thibodeau as well has added some weight to his frame. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. 2022 class, maybe they're turning a corner. Maybe that's something we can keep an eye on and be excited about with all those guys obviously being in contract years in 2025.
What do you think about Jalin Hyatt? That's another guy we mentioned last stream that he seems to be a standout at OTAs. Any thoughts on the way he's played?
I'm out on Jalin Hyatt until he proves me otherwise. I know, like, he's like the prince of the ball over the last couple of days on Giants Twitter. Like, people are buying into it, and I know that I read that him and Russell Wilson had a private workout. I think I saw Art Stapleton tweet that, and I pray to God he proves me wrong, man. I want him to be an incredible receiver. I don't think the Giants believe that much in Jalin Hyatt, which is why they brought Darius Slayton back and why they've looked into Gabe Davis. Maybe he'll have an incredible training camp. Maybe there'll be an injury here or there, and he'll get in a more expanded role than I think the Giants' plan is to give him. And maybe he'll blossom this year with Russell Wilson, who's a great deep ball thrower. We all know that that's Jalin Hyatt's strength as a wide receiver. So we'll see. But he's got to show it to me before I believe in anything with Jalin Hyatt. He's been incredibly underwhelming his first 2 years in the NFL.
I wanted to say something to Anthony. It was the pun intended when you said Evan Neal flipped from one side to the other. It's the pun intended. Burger flipping. No, just okay. Just wanted to double check on that real quick. Mark Stewart, man, welcome to Giants Collective membership, brother. We really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Let's get into some of these. Actually, Anthony, what were your thoughts on Jalin Hyatt? Sorry.
I kind of side with Chris. Like, I'll believe it when I see it on the field, and I don't even need to wait until the regular season field. I need to see it in the preseason because I think we got a pretty good understanding of where Hyatt was last year in the preseason. If you remember that preseason game versus the Houston Texans where he was lined up with Stingley, and he was just completely shut down. Like, Daniel Jones threw an interception on one of those go balls to Hyatt, but Hyatt was just as responsible as Daniel Jones was. Like, sure, Jones maybe underthrew it a little bit, but Hyatt ran a really sloppy route right up the sideline, gave his quarterback no space to fit that ball into. He had no physicality at the catch point. And that was a trend throughout the season. Like, that was how Hyatt looked in the preseason. That's how he looked in the regular season. He wasn't ready to play. He wasn't a good enough football player. So until we see it even in the preseason, if we start to see it then I might start to believe it. Obviously, like Chris said, you got to see it in the regular season for sure. But I think that we can get a pretty good understanding of where he's truly at once the preseason rolls around. And I think it's going to be about physicality. We know he's fast. We know he can run deep and get by the defense and catch deep passes from the best deep ball passer of the last 10 years in the NFL, and Russell Wilson. Like, that should be easy enough for him. But can he do it when the pads are on? Can he do it when there's an element of physicality to the football game? That's the big question mark. And we won't get any answers to that until training camp at the least, and then preseason when they get physicality from other opponents as well. So I still have a lot more data that I need in order to be able to realistically buy in on Jalin Hyatt. But I am hopeful and I'm excited about it. You know, Russ said he's a player that he really believes in, and I believe in Russ. So I guess by association, I have to have some sort of belief in Jalin Hyatt.
How much do you think the quarterback matters when it comes to Jalin? I mean, obviously he must have been doing something completely wrong. It's not all on the quarterback because Jalin Hyatt was in the doghouse, couldn't even get on the field. But how much do you think it is that his limited skill set, which pretty much at this point is just running deep, was hampered by the fact that none of the quarterbacks on our team would throw deep? And it kind of took away his one trick that he was really good at. I mean, do you think that Russell Wilson can make that big of a difference for him? You think? Because I talked about this in the last stream. I think that, again, I think a young player like Jalin Hyatt, who obviously has a ton of talent, they don't just give the Biletnikoff award to anybody. You win that for a reason. The Giants traded up for him for a reason. And I'm wondering, sometimes if his confidence was shook or he just didn't believe in himself or he didn't believe the quarterback gave him the ball. And sometimes you have it and you're losing games and he can't get on the field. And I'm not making excuses for him. You're a professional. You should always perform that way. You should always give it your all. You shouldn't take plays off or think you're so good you ain't got to work hard. But do you think having a guy like Russell Wilson, and I mentioned this last time, Anthony, he's going to Canton. He's won a Super Bowl. He's played in 2 Super Bowls. He's a 10-time Pro Bowler. He's the best quarterback we've had since Eli Manning. I don't think there's any question about it. This is a guy that has taken Jalin Hyatt aside. He has voiced his confidence in him publicly, saying he's untapped potential. They had a private workout. Do you think this helps Jalin Hyatt's confidence and that he will work harder? Or do you think he's just, yeah.
I think it'll help him work harder. I think having the confidence of a quarterback like Russell Wilson should help anybody play better and work harder, especially, like you mentioned, he had a private workout with Russell Wilson. I guess they've been training together all offseason, and they've been really trying to put their heads down and become better players. So I do think it's important, and I think it'll help Jalin Hyatt. And I think what you said there about, having a quarterback room that actually can throw the deep ball, yes, that's definitely going to impact Jalin Hyatt's ability to perform. But so will the offensive line, and so will many other factors, the play calling, and Hyatt's physicality going downfield and route running ability. So there are so many factors. It is the ultimate team sport. So while it does give me some sense of positivity and a little bit more confidence in Hyatt now that he's got a quarterback that can throw the ball deep, I'm excited about it. But again, just there's so much more work for him to do. I love when you bring up the Fred Biletnikoff Award thing, though, because I always have to look back on it. That's what I was doing. I was pulling up the previous winners. Of course, the Giants are the only one of the last several years to draft a bust. You're talking, well, Travis Hunter remains to be seen, but Marvin Harrison Jr. was an absolute stud, top 5 pick. Jalin Hyatt, Jordan Addison is a stud. Devontae Smith is a stud. Jamar Chase is a stud. Jerry Jeudy is now, at least finally, a stud. So, of course, Jalin Hyatt is really clearly the odd man out of the last several years of Fred Biletnikoff Award winners.
Of course.
I'm going to tell you what, as you're talking about Jalin Hyatt and talking about how he finally has a quarterback that could work through his skill set. I'm going to tell you a wide receiver that always gets overlooked by Giants fans. And if I had to peg a wide receiver that I think is going to break out this year, I would lean more towards Darius Slayton. This is the best quarterback that Darius Slayton has ever had to play with. He's shown me he's had production on the field before. He's shown me that he's had potential. I wouldn't be stunned if Darius Slayton has 1,000 yards this year. I'm more excited about the prospect of Darius Slayton having a better quarterback to work with than Jalin Hyatt. I understand Jalin Hyatt is the guy that, people said had a higher ceiling when he came into the league. He was regarded as the higher prospect. I have a lot more faith in Darius Slayton at this point than Jalin Hyatt, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big year for the Giants this year, opposite Malik Neighbors.
It's a really good point because Darius Slayton, one of the best picks Dave Gettleman had. I mean, you're getting a pretty much a wide receiver 2. Now, he might not be wide receiver 2 on a lot of teams, but he's definitely been solid. He's definitely been our most consistent receiver. He's a good team guy. He's taking a pay cut. He's very agreeable to things. He sticks up for his team. Like he's the consummate professional. He reminds me of, and I'm not saying skill set wise, but he reminds me of a lot of Monty Toomer. Monty Toomer is always a guy that just kind of got overlooked because he was just very workmanlike. He didn't say much. He wasn't flashy. He just went out there and performed. Anthony, do you think that Darius Slayton could have a big time breakout season with, like Chris said? I mean, it's a great point. This is the best quarterback he's had to work with. And we've seen flashes of Darius Slayton have a really good year. So how are you excited for Darius Slayton to take the next step forward?
I think it's a good point because we're talking about how Russell Wilson has the skill set with the deep passing to maximize a player of Jalin Hyatt's skill set. Well, who else is a great deep threat? Darius Slayton. I mean, when he stepped into the NFL in 2019, he was primarily used only on go routes, the same as Jalin Hyatt was, and he was really productive. I think he had 9 touchdowns that year, something crazy that, and 700-something yards. He had a really great rookie season. If you think about 2023, which was a more recent good season for him, how about those plays against the Rams, that deep shot that Tyrod Taylor hit him on? How about that deep shot that Tyrod Taylor hit him on against the Eagles on Christmas Day? He is a vertical threat. He is a really good receiver when he's got a quarterback who can put the ball downfield accurately. Just for the majority of the games he's played in his career, it's been with his best buddy, Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones hasn't been able to hit those deep shots. But when Tyrod Taylor was on the field hitting them, it looked pretty good. Even Eli Manning in 2019 for those first couple weeks of the season, and then later on in the year when he came back in, I think Darius Slayton had some deep shots go his way as well.
Eagles, I think it was.
Exactly.
Eli's last game.
So
Yeah.
Slayton is a guy who has never been used properly and has never had his skill set maximized. So it's true. We spend so much attention on Jalin Hyatt, and we have so much excitement about him because he's young and he is a former Blitnikoff Award winner. He's a guy that we were shocked to see the Giants land in the third round. But if you're really looking at the skill set matchup of Russell Wilson and one of the receivers on this team who could break out, Darius Slayton probably is the more prime candidate for a breakout.
Fucking Darius down there somewhere. Who's going to do that? Let's get into some of these questions, guys. Again, tonight is your night, chat. So if you have any questions, ask them in the chat. Let me get a couple here because I see, Chris, you were in the Thibodeau jersey. So where did you go, Pete? Pete says, did you guys get any new jerseys of Carter or Dart? You guys ordered any of those yet?
I think I've just been too burnt with the jerseys I've bought that I'm like, I kind of got to see them play a little bit before I buy the jersey. That's how I feel, man. Even the guy I'm wearing right now, I think a lot of it's been with injuries. I think Kayvon's a good player, but hasn't lived up to what I was expecting him to be, at least thus far. So it's like I kind of got to hold off until I see Jaxson Dart out there throwing the football before I go ahead and buy his jersey.
Anthony, what about you?
I'm the same way. I mean, I used to buy a lot of jerseys, but they are expensive, as I saw somebody say in the chat. And because the Giants have such a bad track record in recent years, I don't know. And I also live down here in Florida, so it's like I'll get made fun of if I wear a Giants jersey. It's not like in New York where everybody's wearing like New York paraphernalia. It's like I'm wearing New York paraphernalia. People have to signal that out and then make fun of me for it. So it's a little different. But I also wouldn't advise anybody to get a Carter or a Dart jersey just because
they changed the
we
numbers.
know that they might change those numbers at the start of the season. Malik Neighbors, if anybody ordered a number 9 Malik Neighbors jersey this time last year, they're definitely disappointed in that jersey purchase. And he didn't even change it until
changed his number 2 his second year, right? Deontay Banks changed his number 2.
He's changed his number twice now. He went from 25. Yeah. Actually, no, he went 36 he wore during his rookie training camp. Then he went to 25, then to 3. Now he's at 2. So 4 numbers for him somehow. So yeah, I just think hold off on buying jersey numbers until the player establishes himself in that number, and then it's probably a good idea.
I agree. I think that wait till their number is ensconced, but they could change it again next year. I mean, you never know. Players change numbers like they change underwear nowadays. It's crazy how often the numbers change. But I've also had a very bad track record with Giants jerseys. Odell Beckham, gone. Saquon Barkley, gone. Xavier McKinney, gone. I don't want Carter or Dart to be gone. I want them to be a Giant for the rest of their career for 15, 20 years. So, no, I haven't ordered any jerseys. And honestly, they're uncomfortable for me. I got to put this up there, and I hear my dog bark, so I'll be right back. Lou says, if Marcus Bowe is as smart as everyone is reporting, why not try him at center and teach him to read blitz setups like they wanted JMS to do? I don't care who answers. I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, I mean, Lou, I mean, that's something that they could potentially explore with in the future. I think you still probably give JMS another year to see if he could continue to grow into that mold. Bo, of course, played tackle at the collegiate level, but a lot of people project that he'd be better on the interior at the pro level, but more so the guard. But I have heard people say that he's potentially capable of playing the center as well. I think you probably wait another year. That's at least my mindset on it before you even explore the possibility of that. I would give JMS another year getting to play next to the 2 same guards he played last year to see if he could grow with a more experienced quarterback, because that's, you spend a pretty high pick on him. So that's my mindset on that. Maybe in the future, Bo could become the long-term center, but for this year, I think you roll out with JMS.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Giants are planning on trying Bo at every position possible. Like they're just going to mix him in all over the place. I know right tackle and right guard are the ones that are obviously mentioned because he's played both of those positions at the collegiate level. But when he was drafted, I believe he mentioned that he feels he can play all 5 positions and that he's open to trying center. He's open to being on the left side. So I don't think it's, something that the Giants aren't planning on at least incorporating at some point. And obviously, like you said, Chris, with JMS, let's give him a little bit more time. Maybe he turns it around like we just talked about. Belton and Flott, these guys are turning around now in year 4. I mean, JMS is only entering year 3, and he hasn't had any good quarterbacks playing behind him either. So I think that makes a big difference for the center, is having a smart and capable quarterback under you. So hopefully JMS takes a step forward. And then Marcus Bowe, I'm fine just stashing him away. If he becomes something someday, that's great. But he really only is a 5th-round pick. So as exciting of a selection as he was, because he does have starting level potential. It's not something that we need to see right away, and it's something that we can just stash for a rainy day, and hopefully down the line he reaches that potential.
We've talked about this the last few weeks, Anthony, on this channel, and talking about how improved the Giants' depth is. He's kind of like the Matt Parrott pick, but the difference was Matt Parrott, we were trying to rush him into the starting lineup year one because our depth was so poor. It just speaks to how much deeper this team is, even at a position that's not really super strong. We've gotten a lot deeper there. So it's nice to be able to draft. Most people projected him to be a 4th round pick. I think we got a bargain, but it's nice to draft a guy in the 4th or 5th round that you could say, well, no, let him hold off, let him learn, let him be quality depth for the next year or two, and maybe he could develop into a starter. I think that shows that this Giants roster continues to get deeper, which is important. That's how you build a good football team.
Yeah, I think that he was brought in here for depth purposes, not saying that he can't work his way up the depth chart. I mean, that's what the football season is. That's what training camp is. And Lou, maybe they will try him at center at some point, but I don't want to give up on JMS. I really loved the pick. And I know that we've mentioned this a lot before that, it's tough for a rookie at 1 year and then, a second year. There's been a lot of shift in that offensive line. There's constant shifting. There's guys all over the place. He's dealt with some injuries as well. And I don't think he had the strongest quarterback back there helping him out. I think it was difficult.
Been snapping to like 6 different quarterbacks over the last 2 years, right?
That's what I'm saying. There really hasn't been any consistency for that kid. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I mean, you got to step up. You got to play good. I mean, all teams deal with injuries. But I really think a guy like Russell Wilson, I think this is why I'm so excited about Russ. And it's not so much his physical skills because they're not what they were. But I will keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. Russell Wilson's intelligence is going to go so much farther than these other quarterbacks took us. He's just a smart, cerebral quarterback. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's looking at. He's been there. He's won this thing. He has a ring. And I just feel like he can help a young offensive line out a lot. I think a veteran quarterback can really help a young offensive line and make them better. And if he's getting rid of the ball a quarter of a second quicker than the other quarterbacks did, that's also going to help the offensive line because they don't have to block as long. So again, I'm not saying Bo might not be tried at center at some point. They might not get him in the starting lineup somewhere down the line, but I don't want to give up on JMS yet. I really would like to see what he does with a veteran quarterback, calling the snaps, and hopefully Russ can stay healthy. And like Chris said, he's not snapping the ball to 6 quarterbacks. He's just snapping it to 1. So I think that would help a lot without question. As always, let me just hold on 1 second. Let me do this. As always, a big shout out to BetUS, guys. BetUS powers Giants Collective. It's right there. Go to BetUS. Enter the promo code YouTube150. You get a 150% match deposit on your first deposit, a 125% match deposit bonus on your second and third deposits, all the way up to $2,000 bonus cash. Bonus cash, easy for me to say. Great customer service, 24/7, 365, the fastest payouts in the business within 24 hours. And you get that 10% gambler's insurance against all your net losses as long as you stay active every 6 months. Terms and conditions apply. And when you gamble, we ask that you do it responsibly. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. So what did the graphics team come up with tonight? Well, Defensive Rookie of the Year. 2025, 2026. And for once, the odds are in our favor.
Well, they should be.
Abdul Carter. Plus 250.
I wonder, I'm looking at this graphic, Bad Dog. What would be a cool parlay if you could do it? Travis
Hunter, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Hunter, Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Travis Hunter winning both offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year. Well, I wonder what the odds for that would be. What would that be, like 70-1? That would be an interesting parlay. But I like the plus 250. I mean, if he stays healthy, I think he's got to be the clear favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year going into the year.
For that parlay, it'd be 700-1 because he's on the Browns. And the Browns stink. But I don't think there's any question. I think Giants fans, I don't know that I've seen one that's not excited about Abdul Carter's potential and what he could bring to the Giants. I mean, he is a freak athlete. His bend is unbelievable. He's a game wrecker. And to add him to the defensive line that we have, where you're really going to have a hard time, who are you going to double team? You can't double team Dex because you got Burns and you got Thibodeau. You can't double team Thibodeau because you got Dex. And, they added, why is his name? Alexander. They added him in the second round. So, I mean, there's a lot of depth. Chauncey Golson, there's a ton of depth with this Giants line. It's going to be hard to just double team a guy and take him out of the game because everybody else can succeed. So I think Abdul Carter coming, if he was the lone wolf on the defense, maybe it'd be difficult. Not that winning defensive rookie of the year is easy, but
I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I'm assuming those are the three favorites. If those are the three players listed, I'm surprised Mason Graham's not on there within the top three favorites. But I think Abdul Carter should be the overwhelming favorite.
I like Jalen Walker at plus 700 too, though. That is a pretty good sleeper pick with Atlanta Falcons and what they have set up there, and that's a defense that's really going to turn Jalen Walker loose. So he would be the good sleeper pick of those three, in my opinion. But Abdul Carter should be the favorite. I mean, especially with Bad Dog, like you were saying, how stacked the Giants' defensive line is. There should be a lot of one-on-one opportunities for all those guys on the defensive line, and hopefully that leads to some big sack totals for Abdul Carter. And honestly, I would like to see what his sack prop is, the over-under. I'd be willing to bet that it's pretty close to 10 sacks. I honestly do think he's going to get double digits. I think his impact is going to be as immediate and intense as Micah Parsons was. And I think he had 13,
11 or 12. He had a lot of double digits.
11 and a half, 12 and a half. Yeah, something like that. I'm not saying that Carter's necessarily going to reach like 13 sacks, but can he get to 10? I absolutely think he could. And that would break a record for the New York Giants, most sacks by a rookie in a single season. That would even break Lawrence Taylor's unofficial. The official record is 8.5 for Azeez Ojulari, but unofficial because they weren't tracking sacks in 1981 or 2, whatever it was for Lawrence Taylor's rookie year. He had 9.5, so he didn't even hit double digits. So if Carter hits double digits, his career will already be off to like a tremendous start in terms of Giants history.
Which is why Lawrence Taylor is actually the all-time Giants sack leader. I know that Strahan gets credit, but Lawrence Taylor actually had 1/2 sack more. If you add that 9.5, he ends up with 142, and Strahan had 140.5 or 141.5, whatever it was. So LT, always the GOAT, always will be the GOAT. But LT also won Player of the Year in 1981. So Defensive Player of the Year, and he's the only rookie to ever do that. And I could do a whole show on Lawrence Taylor. So
he's the last defensive player to win the MVP also.
He's untouchable. He's the greatest defensive player of all time. I always love when guys come in and they compare all these. The guy's a good rookie sees, he's Lawrence Taylor. Nah, no, he's not. He's not Lawrence Taylor. Trust me, I tell you, he's not. I'm old enough to remember Lawrence Taylor. Now, I hope that Abdul Carter makes people think of Lawrence Taylor. That'd be great. 10 sacks would be awesome. I read an article they predict him to have like 6.5 sacks, and
I think he's going to go over that.
I was thinking, I hope he has more than that. I would like a nice close-up meeting between Dak and Abdul Carter, Daniels and Abdul Carter, and especially Jalen Hurts and Abdul Carter. I would like to see Jalen Hurts meet our offensive line. I'd like them to have a nice defensive team photo with those quarterbacks this year. That would be great. Slink says Wilson could also look as cooked as he did in Denver. What do you guys think about his tenure in Denver? I don't think he ever had the right coach there. I don't think they really wanted him to be there. And I just think it was a bad fit. And I think he had a much better year for the Steelers last year. And they didn't even have that much talent around him.
Yeah, I think it was partly Russ wasn't near what he used to be. Like that was certainly a part of it. But I also think, I think he didn't fit that offense well at all, right? When you think about Sean Payton, and that's why I thought Bo Nix was a good fit for him when they drafted him, even though I didn't love Bo Nix the prospect. You think about a quarterback who could get the ball out of his hand very quickly, short intermediate routes. Russ is more of a deep ball thrower. So it was never really good match in terms of a scheme fit either. So I think it was a combination of both. I think it was Russ wasn't the quarterback he once was, and I think he also didn't fit the ideal Sean Payton offense.
What do you think, Anthony? I know Anthony as excited as me, maybe more excited about Russ. So what do you think?
I think the same thing. I don't think it was a good fit over there. Like, I understand Sean Payton is a great coach and a great mind, but in terms of the scheme, being quick and having a lot of passes over the middle, I just don't think that it lended itself to Russell Wilson's strengths. And I think that it was a tough adjustment for him to go from Seattle, where he had been for a decade, to a new team. I think that was probably the biggest thing. Going to a new team, a completely new culture, completely new environment, new players, new weapons to throw to. I think it's a little different now that he's done it twice before. Like, he went to Denver, he failed. He went to Pittsburgh, he had moderate success. And I think coming here to the New York Giants, now it's kind of normal for him to be switching teams, and he's got a better understanding and handle of it. And I do think that this roster is set up to put him in positions to succeed. So it's totally possible. Maybe he is as cooked as he looked in Denver. Maybe he does look terrible with the Giants. That would be our luck for sure. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's at least going to be an average quarterback this season.
Yeah, and you mentioned it a number of times, Anthony. Average compared to bottom of the league is such a monumental difference at that position. And I think this is why why I have a better feeling about the Giants. Again, we're not going to be Buffalo. We're not going to be putting up 35 points a game. We don't have Josh Allen back there. We don't have Mahomes back there. We don't have those guys. It's not Joe Burrow. We understand that, but it's not any of the quarterbacks we've had here the previous. It's not Mike Glennon. It's not Jake Fromm. It's not Drew Lock. It's not Daniel Jones. He's proven himself. He can play at this level. And again, I just feel like in between the years, he's the smartest and most cerebral guy we've had. And I'll be completely honest, I think the best quarterback we've had here over the last 6 years has been Tyrod Taylor. If I'm being completely honest, I felt like he gave us the best chance to win of all the quarterbacks that were here. And I know Daniel Jones had a good year in 2022, and I'm not taking that away from him, but I just always felt like there was more excitement. I feel like there was more versatility on the offense. I feel like Daniel Jones really wasn't very versatile when it came to throwing the football. I think Russ is. I think Russ can anticipate. I think Russ can throw the ball deep. I think Russ can read defenses. I think Russ knows the hot. I think Russ knows the will. He knows the mic. He knows wherever this blitz is coming from, man. I feel like that's such an undervalued aspect of a quarterback, is what goes between their ears. I feel like smart quarterbacks succeed. Tom Brady was one of the smartest quarterbacks ever. He was no athlete. As a matter of fact, I think Tom Brady and I are the same age. So saying I could beat him in the race isn't really saying much. But I still think I can run better. What do you run at the 40? A 5.26? I'm 50 years old almost. I still think I can run faster than a 5.26 in the 40. So that's how bad Brady is.
I honestly think that's the most important attribute for a quarterback. The older I get watching football, we all get enamored with the great, huge arms, and rightfully so. That's important, right? Josh Allen, I was blown away when I watched his combine. One of the few quarterback prospects I've ever been legitimately blown away, and he's obviously become an elite quarterback in the NFL. Pat Mahomes, we all know, could do really special things, but when you think about Peyton Manning too, it's not Peyton Manning didn't have some elite physical traits. He didn't have a cannon for an arm. He played in the dome his entire career, but nobody was better pre-snap than Peyton Manning. And same thing with Tom Brady, right? What between the ears is, I think, the most important attribute for a quarterback, being able to read a defense, knowing what a defense is going to do. You don't necessarily need to have a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. You can get away with a 91 with a good changeup, like a great pitcher like Greg Maddux was, when you can read the field the way that a Tom Brady or Peyton Manning could. So I actually think that's the most important attribute for a quarterback. Pre-snap reads, being able to read a defense, being able to set up your offensive line properly. I think that's the most important thing. And that is why I do think it will be a massive improvement with Russell Wilson. I don't even necessarily think he's a better physical talented quarterback at this stage in his career than Daniel Jones, but I think pre-snap he's light years better, and I think that's where we're going to see the biggest improvement for the Giants.
Chris, I know we worked together a long time, because I was going to bring up the pitching analogy as well. So I know we worked together a long time. So, I mean, Anthony, what do you think about the cerebral assassin?
I think it's a really important note to highlight for Russell Wilson, but I'll actually segue it into another conversation. Like, Chris, you mentioned Josh Allen coming out of college and how he was a physical freak. And he really didn't have the mental side of the game down until the third season of his career. And then he became an absolute superstar. But it wasn't until, because the physical traits were always there. The flash was always there for the first 2 seasons, but he really wasn't all that great. The third season, he figured out the mental aspect of the game. He turned into a star. And the point that I want to make there is that can be a learned trait. And I think that's why it's so important that the Giants have a quarterback who already has that trait and Russell Wilson on the roster, while also having a young quarterback in Jaxson Dart on the roster who can learn this from Russell Wilson and learn this from Brian Dable and Mike Kafka. So all of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, even especially the ones that step in and make an immediate impact. Jaden Daniels, he was killing people with his mind just as much as he was with his arm. Bo Nix, exactly. Yeah. He had the mental part down in college, and it translated to an immediate successful rookie season. CJ Stroud, I mean, he's got like the historically good Wonderlic equivalent test, whatever it was, and he immediately stepped in and had success. So Jaxson Dart, obviously, you want to take all that into account and look at the mental aspect of the game. And that's where we can be grateful that he has all the time in the world to sit, learn, and develop that particular aspect, because he's got a good arm. He's mobile. He's athletic. He can make some plays, but can he read a defense? Can he? He doesn't even know how to do a snap count, right? So like, these are all the things that he needs to learn. But I'm just thankful that he has the time, because it is such a learned trait, and it's something that you can develop. It's the most developable skill probably for NFL quarterbacks. So with that being the case, Jaxson Dart has all the time in the world to develop that. And once he does, I think he can be something special.
Yeah, I just like the addition of Russ a lot. I don't know, but I've always been a Russell Wilson fan. What's that?
It's a great addition. It's a great addition, and I think the biggest. I mean, I'm excited to see him play this year, but I think the ability to be able to sit Jaxson Dart and have him learn, it is so valuable, and I think it's been something that teams have gotten away from. That I think you're going to start to see a trend of teams adopting more what the Giants are doing, because obviously the Packers have done it traditionally. I'm not saying sit a quarterback for 2 or 3 years the way the Packers do, but I think it is incredibly valuable to be able to sit a quarterback for nearly his first year, where he could just sit and learn in the NFL. I think teams have gotten too far away from that. It is such an important position to sit and learn. And I know a lot of people say you got to be in there to learn, but I don't know. I think back to the time when I watched football. Very rarely, even if the quarterback was the first overall pick, did you throw him to the Wolves until his second year. I think you're going to start to see teams trend more that way. Not full years sitting out, but maybe 8-10 games. I think it's very valuable for a quarterback to be able to sit and learn, especially behind a veteran like Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he's going to get to go in there with that, knowing a lot about how to read a defense and how to do this and how to do that. Not just Russ, but Jameis Winston in the locker room as well. I feel like he's a really good veteran to learn from too. And that's why I think Jaxson, that's why I made one video, and I've discussed why I believe Jaxson Dart will be set up to succeed where they did not. I know Daniel Jones had his issues here, and we're not as absolving Daniel Jones. He was bad. There's no sugarcoating it. He was not a good quarterback here, but the Giants didn't help him. There's no question. They didn't do him any favors at all. They ruined him. No. They're not going to do that with Jaxson Dart. And that's why
I agree with you. They're not going to.
I have confidence that Jaxson Dart, well, he may not be an elite guy, will be set up for success. Yeah. Unlike Daniel Jones, who was never set up for success. He just wasn't. So I have no doubt. This Brian Daboll's guy, Brian Daboll is going to want to get everything he can to build around Jaxson Dart. They've already addressed the defense this year. It's going to be a
and you got Malik Davis, which helps.
Correct. You're probably going to get a wide receiver 2 next year, be it free agency, be it the draft, and you can move Slayton to wide receiver 3. I don't know if Wan'Dale's contract is up this year or next year, but he might not be back. Maybe the Giants want to upgrade somewhere along the way. But I really feel like next year you're going to see the Giants really take major swings at that offensive line. Like they're going to they're going to spend all their money on like a top star 100%. Somewhere. Yeah, I have no doubt. That's where their money's going to be invested next year. Because I think that Neighbor.
This is Wan'Dale's last year, I think, right, Anthony?
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, final year of his contract. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So he might not be back next year, but I feel like you have Slayton, you have Neighbors. They're locked up for a while. You can add a third wide receiver. And I feel like that it's pretty good 1-2. It's not an elite 1-2, but it's good. Malik Neighbors is a beast. Slayton's a consummate professional. I mean, it worked with Burris and Toomer.
So maybe you add, like you said, maybe Slayton becomes the 3. You add an elite number 2 option, and then all of a sudden you got a great receiving core.
Right. And you get a line to block. It's just really much better. So that's why I feel like, the Giants, in my opinion, they're not going to make the playoffs, I don't think, but I feel like you're going to see them take a major step in the right direction, and they just got to continue to grow. And that's why hopefully they have a step up this year where they win 7 games. And I know people like, bad, 7 games. Let's show you, how do you not have more confidence? But you win 7 games, you win some division games, you compete against the best teams in the NFL because this is the toughest schedule in the NFL. You take a step forward, baby steps. And then next year you can sit there and go, we have the confidence built around this kid. This is our kid. Let's get him in there. The schedule can't be nearly as difficult. We're not playing the same divisions as we did last year. Our division's always tough, but we're not going to play the NFC North. We're not going to play the AFC West next year. So there's reason to believe the Giants are moving in the right direction. And this is why I think Joe Shane the last 2 years has done a really good job. We just got to see it translate into the field. And I hope it does, because I don't want them to fire these guys after they just drafted a quarterback.
That would be a mistake.
I would hate to see that. Big Blue Collector says, you guys think Carl Banks and Otis Anderson will make the Hall of Fame?
Carl, probably yes. Otis, eventually. Otis, I'll say no.
I mean, Otis had over 10,000 yards rushing. He
did.
had 6,000-yard seasons. He had 81 touchdowns. I'm honestly surprised he's not in the Hall of Fame. But Tiki Barber's not in the Hall of Fame, and he put up those stats in 7 years as a starter. So
Otis Anderson was tremendous with the Cardinals too, right?
He was Rookie of the Year. He was All-Pro. Then he kind of fell out of favor there and ended up being a Giant. But I think that Tiki's got to get in before Otis. I don't know why Tiki's not in. It's bullshit. I'm sorry. Tiki Barber was one of the best running backs in the league at the end of his career. I mean, he was unbelievable. He had over 3,500 yards on the ground his last 2 years. He's one of only three running backs to have 10,000 yards rushing and 5,000 yards receiving. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. It doesn't make sense to me. He was such an impactful player. And he's even really good on special teams when he came into the league. So Tiki should be in the freaking Hall of Fame. Carl Banks should be in the freaking Hall of Fame too.
So should Eli Manning, and he's not there.
Yeah, Eli will be there.
He will get there eventually. But I'll say, I think getting into the Hall of Fame, it feels like it's gotten harder in recent years. The fact that Luke Kuechly didn't make it in first ballot actually blew me away. Like, that shocked me even more than Eli Manning not making it, because I knew that there was obviously some open to debate with Eli. Luke Kuechly wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the best linebackers to ever play the game, especially in the modern era. That shocked me. So I know he doesn't have like the wins on his resume, but I mean, he was the best player at his position for a good 7 years in the NFL.
He was like Patrick Willis, same thing, right? The most dominating linebacker for a good 5, 6, 7 year period. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Hall of Fame is weird. I can't even tell you who will and won't make it.
Duran, I always love to give Duran Osmond a shout out for his thumbnail pick. Unless you're my age, you probably don't know what that is, but that's from Tecmo Super Bowl. That's Lawrence Taylor, just so you know. And I will go to my grave telling you right now, you younger folk, Tecmo Super Bowl is the greatest football game ever made. It is Madden pales in comparison. Thank you. I am a Gen Xer. I have Tecmo Super Bowl. Duran says, which player having a breakout season could have the biggest impact on the team?
I like that question. I'll go. I'm going to go Abdul Carter. I know he's a rookie, and it's tough to say a breakout when he's never played. But I think if Abdul Carter could have a similar rookie year to that of Micah Parsons, like Anthony said earlier, I think that he could have a similar impact on the season to what Parsons did for that Cowboys defense. People forget before Parsons got there, the Cowboys had the worst defense in the NFL. I think the year before he got there, of course, Dan Quinn had a lot to do with it as well. A tremendous defensive play caller. I'm not saying it was all Parsons, but all of a sudden the Dallas Cowboys became one of the better defenses in the NFL. If he's as good as I think he can be, and I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy his rookie year, but if he's an elite pass rusher day one, the Giants may have one of the top 5 or 6 defenses in the NFL. So I think I'll go with him. I think if he could have that level of a rookie year, which I'm not going to rule out, I think the Giants could have one of the best defenses in the league.
Anthony, what do you think?
I initially wanted to go with Evan Neal, but I'll go with Kayvon Thibodeau. Same exact idea here of a pass rusher and the way that can transform our defense, but just waiting for him to really truly have that breakout. You know, I mean, if he's able to have a breakout season, meanwhile, Abdul Carter is able to have a defensive rookie of the year kind of season, and meanwhile, Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns can be as good as they were. I actually think if Kayvon breaks out, that could be the key, right? Because you've got those other 3 guys, and they're going to be great, and we expect big things for Carter. But if Carter takes, it has a major impact as a rookie, and Thibodeau takes a step forward, I mean, that could be the perfect meeting of minds to have the best defensive lineup.
And the way I look at it, Anthony, is if Carter does what I just said, Kayvon's going to have that breakout year, right? Because if you have to pay Yeah, if you have to spend all that extra attention on him to stop him, that's going to open up the lanes for Kayvon. So one hand's going to watch the other.
I'm going to go to the opposite side of the football, and I'm going to go to the guy you mentioned earlier, Chris, and that's Darius Slayton. If Darius Slayton can have a breakout season where he has 1,000 yards or close to it, 9 touchdowns, think about what that could do for Malik Neighbors. Think about what that could, because you already know Malik Neighbors is going to get his. You know he's going to get his. But if defenses can't just double team Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton takes this major step forward and gives you 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns, and Russell Wilson has more than one guy to go to. And again, Slayton's very versatile. Like Anthony mentioned, he can run the deep ball. He can go deep. I mean, he's probably slower now, but he ran a 4.39 at the combine. He's always had good speed, but he can also catch over the middle. Now, he's had problems with drops, but I think his talent's underrated. I think that he's very versatile. I think a guy like Russell Wilson could make him really good. And when you're paying all that attention to Malik Neighbors, if Darius Slayton can break out, that's going to make the offense a lot more balanced. And it's going to be difficult for defenses to figure out who do we cover. Do we cover Neighbors? But now Slayton's killing us. And that in turn could open up Wan'Dale Robinson. It could open up the running game. I think having a really solid wide receiver too, because you look at the best teams in football, you look at the Eagles with, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. You look at the Browns with Chase and Higgins. If you can get Darius Slayton to be a legitimate number 2 to go with a legitimate number 1, then all of a sudden the offense is going to look a lot better. So
I'm pretty high on Darius Slayton this year. I think he could have, like Anthony talked about, and that's the thing why I won't buy into Hyatt. I just don't think Hyatt is strong enough, big enough to be able to high point the ball against good NFL cornerbacks. Darius Slayton is. I think Darius Slayton is much more of a complete package as a wide receiver than Jalin Hyatt. I think Hyatt is more of just a straight line. I'm going to try to burn you on the deep ball type of weapon. The more I think about it, the more I think that's going to be my bold prediction of the year. I think Darius Slayton's going to, if he plays all year, which that remains to be seen, I think he's going to be in line for close to 1,000 yards this year. I really think he's going to have a good year this year.
Let's go.
Yeah, and Slayton's presence on the roster, and we're talking about him as a potential breakout candidate, that's also going to hurt Jalin Hyatt's chances of breaking out as well, because I think it's going to be tough for them to take Darius Slayton off of the field. And honestly, I think that Hyatt's best course would be to try and convert to become a slot receiver, because Wan'Dale's in the final year of his contract, and the Giants have some cap problems for next year. If you guys weren't aware, they only have $8 million in salary cap space next offseason. Jalin Hyatt, if he wants to become a long-term piece for this team, get your route running down. Physicality is different on the slot. You don't have to worry about those jams and those presses on the outside that he faces, that he struggles against. If he could become a slot receiver, vertical threatening slot receiver, that would be Jalin Hyatt's best chance of becoming something for the New York Giants, in my opinion.
Yeah. G says there's 111 likes and there should be more. He's right. So hit the thumbs up, guys. It costs nothing. I promise you. You're not going to get charged hitting the thumbs up. If you like the show, it'll certainly help us out. I know it's zero about the YouTube algorithm, but I know it likes thumbs up. So if you can do that, that'd be great. And hey, subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel either. So subscribe, because like I said, during the regular season, guys and girls, this show is going to be big. You want to be a part of it. We want you to be a part of it. Giants fans have dealt with a lot of shit the last decade or so. Wouldn't it be great to embrace a nice season and enjoy good Giants football again? You want to be here to do it. No doubt about it. Fastest growing Giants show on YouTube. I say that's not true. Well, maybe it is true. I don't know. But it sounds good. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. New York State of Mind says if the defense doesn't perform well, does Bowen last the whole season?
Yes, I think he lasts the whole season. I don't think he lasts past this season if the defense doesn't perform well. But yeah, I think he's going to last the entire year as a defensive coordinator.
Anthony, what do you think?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I could see the Giants making a change, just knowing that they do have two worthy candidates to be a potential interim DC. And, well, actually, no, Jerome Henderson's not here anymore. They fired him. But Andre Patterson's still here, and he has a pretty good resume to be a DC, at least in the interim. So I think if they need to make a change, they might. This defense is too good on paper not to perform, though. So if they really aren't performing, yeah, I think probably somebody gets held accountable and something gets shaken up, and it probably would be Shane Bowen being fired.
Agreed. I mean, listen, man, Shane Bowen is known to not be a guy that blitzes. It's a major reason the Giants traded for Brian Burns. And I'm sure, well, I mean, he was the best player in the draft when we got there. It was Abdul Carter, but now you've added the best pass rusher, and I would say the best player in the 2025 draft to the Giants. Now you have Burns, you have Thibodeau, you have Dexter Lawrence, you have Abdul Carter. There is no reason to think that Shane Bowen can't succeed with the front seven that he has, or the front four that he has. These guys should be able to get pressure on the quarterback, and it's obviously this is on him to create that pressure, to do things, and these guys' talent should be able to do it. So this fits right into his scheme. 100%. But we also heard about how great his red zone defense was and his rush defense was, and it sucked. Now, granted, Thibodeau missed games, Lawrence missed games. I get it. We were doing pretty good. I mean, we did have 45 sacks, which was that top 5, top 3? That was quite a bit of sacks. So you add Abdul Carter, and you hope Dexter Lawrence is healthy all year. Brian Burns played all year, but he dealt with some injuries. You would love him to be healthy. You'd love these guys to be healthy. If they're healthy, and again, you can timestamp and say bad take, but the Giants are going to lead the league in sacks. I'm doing a lot of hot takes out this offseason. Why the hell not? It's a good time to do it. Leading the league in sacks if they stay healthy. I really believe that. Hey, last one of the night. Tutto! Grazie, paesano. Grazie. Massive salutes and respects to our paisanos, Bad Dog Tane and Big Tony, and all the dire Giants fans across the pond. Greetings from all me and my mates currently training in Swansea, Wales.
Wow.
Tudo, you're a legend, bro. And I love when Tudo calls Dable fat fucking Dumbo, or whatever he calls him. Fat fuck Dumbo. I love Tudo. He does not like Brian Dable. He's always like Bad Dog. He sucks. And I love Tudo, but I still have hope in Brian Dable. Hopefully he can make a believer out of Tudo. That means we're having a good year. With that said, guys and girls, that brings us to the close of another edition of Giants Collective. If you enjoyed this show, we ask that you like and subscribe. Let me, I'm going to put this up here. There we go. Big shout out to Bet US for powering the stream. We always appreciate them. Big shout out to them. You guys can check us out on Spotify. You can check us out on Amazon and Apple. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram. All those links are in the description below. If you want to become a channel member, you just click that join button like Mark Stewart did. You get your name in the outro. You get monthly member messages. You also get those really awesome emojis, and there'll be more added. So check that out. We appreciate you always supporting the channel. I know it's kind of a dead time, guys, but I promise you when we get into training camp and we start to get some camp battles, and we start to get some information, and we have some stuff to talk about, and then we get into the season, you're going to want to be here because I'm pumped for this show during the season because I know this is going to be
come August 1st or so, it's going to start to heat up. We get some preseason action. It'll be a lot of fun.
Without question. So for Anthony and Atena, it's Bad Diggy Dizzle. Us Paisanos wish you a happy weekend. We'll see you Wednesday, and we out. Peace.